It was just after midnight on June 12, 1963, when Medgar Evers pulled his Oldsmobile into his driveway in Jackson, Mississippi. Evers, who was the state field secretary for the NAACP, was arriving home late from a meeting. He had been receiving constant death threats prompted by his civil rights work in the Deep South. His house had been firebombed. Someone had tried to run him over. The phone was a continual source of menace. He and his wife, Merle Evers, had bought the single-story Rambler in a new subdivision of Jackson, Miss, thinking it would provide safety for their family. The front door of the house purposely did not face the street. Instead, the main entrance was under the carport, providing cover, he thought, from snipers. That night, Evers pulled into the driveway and parked behind his wife's vehicle. As he emerged from his car, a white supremacist hiding in a honeysuckle bush raised his rifle and fired. The shot hit Evers from behind with such force that it blasted a gaping hole in his back, passed through his chest and pierced the exterior wall of the house. The bullet shot through a kitchen wall, bounced off a refrigerator and landed in a cabinet. The shot that killed Evers was fired only hours after President John F. Kennedy delivered a major, televised speech on civil rights. On Saturday, a new civil rights museum is opening in Jackson that will display that rifle and tell the story of Evers and Mississippi's other civil rights martyrs. But much of the attention shifted from those being memorialized to President Trump, who generated a firestorm by attending. Amid backlash, Trump visits Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. Some civil rights leaders, including Rep. John Lewis, DGA, and NAACP President Derrick Johnson, announced they would not stand alongside a president they regard as racist. Trump spoke briefly to a private gathering Saturday at the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum, acknowledging Evers, James Meredith, and Martin Luther King Jr. as heroes of the past. The Civil Rights Museum records the oppression inflicted on the African American community, the fight to end slavery, to end Jim Crow, to gain the right to vote so that others might live in freedom, he said. The president also paid tribute to Merle Evers Williams, 84, who was a driving force behind the creation of the museum. She was still awake when the shot that killed her husband was fired. Ironically, the shot from the high-caliber hunting rifle also injured the shooter, when it recoiled and pushed the scope into the shooter's eye. He dropped the weapon and fled, according to FBI records. The local police immediately found the rifle and determined that it had been recently fired. Back at the station, a fingerprint was recovered from the scope and submitted to the FBI. The FBI connected the prints to Byron D. La Beckwith 6, a fervent white supremacist. Evers had enraged white supremacists by examining the lynchings of black men in Mississippi. Evers also went undercover in overalls and investigated the death of Emmett Till, the 14-year-old killed on August 28, 1955, in Money, Miss, after being accused of whistling at a white woman in a store.